teaching. There's a guy going, now, what do we need to learn from this, fellas? Starts, no, he didn't go on a big discourse. Exhortation. Oh, it's all right. We can, don't worry about it, bro. It's going to be okay. It's all, it'll be okay. Hey, can you come clean it up real quick? It's going to be all right. He who gives. Dude, don't worry about it. The ham and cheese omelet, they just got water on it. I'll pay for it, man. Don't worry about it. I got it. Right? Leads. Okay, now you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. The gift of mercy. Oh, man. I'm sorry that you had it. I'm sorry that happened. It's going to be okay. Now, here's the thing. I want to challenge you guys. You take your family, your group of people sometime, go to Walmart, and go through the aisle that's got spaghetti sauce, and just kind of accidentally just knock one over. And it's going to break, and you'll be able to see what kind of gifts everybody's got. No, don't do that. But you see, God has given you different gifts and different abilities and different heartbeats for one big purpose, that everything works together. If we had a bunch of just leaders in the group and that's it, no other gifts, we'd be going, okay, you do that, you do that, you do that, and no, you do that, no, you do that. And everybody's just going to sit there and nothing's going to happen. No, that's not, or if it was just the gift of ministry and that's it, everybody would be fighting over who's going to clean everything up. But everybody worked together for the good. You see, God has sovereignly given different gifts because He knows when we all come together, it works. We're going to be talking about a little more in depth next week about how we've been given specific roles in the church. When we work together, it works great. And the illustration is a football team. Think about a football team. Sorry that I always kind of go there, but one of my problems when I played was I wanted to be the quarterback, but then also the offensive line. So I wanted to drop back, but then I wanted to make sure that these guys were blocking. And meanwhile, I'm going, block, dude, and I'm getting drilled while this guy's open downfield. Working together. There's different gifts that you've been given. And Romans 12 will tell you that. There's one thing you can do to kind of understand some of your gifts. Go on the internet and just Google spiritual gifts. Or HOUTS, H-O-U-T-S. Just Google it. And take a test to kind of see what kind of gifts God's given you. What kind of abilities He's sovereignly given you to work as one team. And then figure it out. And then practice that. Practice that gift that God's given you for the betterment of the team. All right? Back in 1 Corinthians 12. I just wanted to touch on that because that's not going to be the main focus of our study today. Go back and study the motivational gifts of Romans 12. See where you're at and jump in, get involved. Verse 5, again, there are differences of ministries. Ministries, and you can circle that close by. You can write offices or positions or roles to serve in the church. That's going to be found in Ephesians 4. Like I said, next week we're going to get more into detail about that. But again, it's grace given. Ephesians 4:11 talks about some are called to be pastors, some are called to be teachers, some are called to be prophets, evangelists, for the equipping of the saints and to build up the church. So there's different roles that are given. There's different positions in the body, and it's this teamwork that's going to go on. So you have the gifts, you have the ministries, and then you have the activities, and that's kind of where we're going to spend the bulk of our time today. The activities or the manifestations. Look at verse 6. And there are diversities of activities. You can circle activities right there. Manifestations, operations, workings. That Greek word energema, where we get our English word energize. And so the way you can think of this term is now God's Spirit will every now and again work through you and manifest Himself in an awesome way. And now we're going to spend the rest of our time understanding what some of these manifestations are. Look at verse 7. But the manifestation, there it is again, the manifestation of the Spirit is given to each one. Why? For the profit of all. The profit of all. For to one is given the word of wisdom through the Spirit, to another the word of knowledge through the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit. See this reoccurring thing? To another gifts, plural, of healings by the same Spirit. To another working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another discerning of spirits. To another different kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. Pause right there. Verse 7 again. I want to make sure that we're well aware of this. Why are we given? For the profit of all. It's not for selfish gain, like they were practicing in Corinth. It's not to say, well, I'm pretty sweet because I've been given this gift. It's for the profit of all. Several months ago, I saw one episode of this show. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was called The Big Give. Did you guys see that one? It was Oprah Winfrey's show, and I loved the concept. I don't really know too much about it, other than she basically got a bunch of people together, gave them a bunch of money, and said, go give it out. The one rule that you can't spend it on yourself. You have to go give it out and help someone, better their life. And I was like, man, that is sweet. I love it. And that's basically what the deal is here. And that's why the title of the message is The Biggest Give. You've been given amazing gifts, but they're not for yourself. They're to give and to help other people out. If you hold it on to yourself or you never function in it, you're cheating the rest of the body. It's for the benefit of all, for the profit of all. You've seen, unfortunately, some televangelists and some of these healers and all that, and it's all about money and themselves, and that's not what it's about. It's about helping other people for the profit of all. So we need to make sure that we understand that. Now, I want to categorize these manifestations of God's Spirit in our lives. I want to start zeroing in on here. And so if you're a note taker, the first one we're going to talk about are the discerning gifts. These manifestations that come as God's Spirit leads, and you have the power to discern, or the power to know something. And the first one we're going to talk about is in verse 8. You can underline it. It's the word of wisdom. How many times have some of you guys maybe read through this and you've heard word of wisdom, word of knowledge? Kind of what's the difference? I don't really understand that. That's what I want to do today is really zero in on here. So discerning, for you note takers, the power to know. Number one, the word of wisdom. The word of wisdom is this. It's insight given by God supernaturally, periodically at a point in time where there's a problem or there's a conflict, there's something that has to be figured out. And God, by His sovereign grace, He gifts you with the ability to solve it. Not on your own strength or your own wisdom, but it's a supernatural thing. 1 Kings 3. This will give you a great idea of what this gift is all about, the word of wisdom. 1 Kings chapter 3. Interesting story. There was a problem that King Solomon had to deal with. They bring it to him. And he exercises this gift, this word of wisdom, the power to know something. And God blesses him with this. Remember now, King Solomon was that king that basically God came to him like a genie in the bottle and said, whatever you want, King Solomon, you can have. And what did he say? Give me wisdom. He didn't say, give me riches. He didn't say any of that. He said, give me wisdom. I don't know what I'm doing here. Give me wisdom to understand how to do this. 1 Kings 3. And let's start here in verse 16. Interesting. Now, 2 women who were harlots came to the king and stood before him. One woman said, O Lord, this woman and I dwell in the same house, and I gave birth while she was in the house. Then it happened the 3rd day after I'd given birth that this woman also gave birth. So 3 days apart they gave birth. And we were together. No one was with us in the house except the 2 of us in the house. And obviously the kids. And this woman's son died in the night because she laid on him. Tragic. So she arose in the middle of the night, check it out, and took my son from my side while your maidservant slept, laid him in her bosom, right here, and then laid her dead child in mine. And when I rose in the morning to nurse my son, there he was, dead. But then I started examining him in the morning, and indeed, he was not my son whom I had born. Now pause right there real quick. First of all, I'm reading this and going, how did you recognize the difference? I mean, all kids are ugly.